President Donald Trump's administration has prepared additional sanctions it could use to target key areas of Russia's economy if President Putin continues to delay ending Moscow's war with Ukraine. According to reports, U.S. officials have also told European counterparts that they support the EU using frozen Russian assets to buy U.S. weapons for Kyiv, and Washington has also held internal conversations about leveraging Russian assets held in the U.S. to support Ukraine's war efforts. However, one senior official also noted that the U.S. would prefer European allies to take the next significant step, whether through new sanctions or tariffs, while Trump may pause briefly to gauge Moscow's response to the latest measures. Now we are joined by Ben Aris. He's a journalist, joins us live from Berlin. Thank you very much, Ben, for joining us today. Welcome to NewsX World. Ben, how do you see, do you think it is effective, these upcoming or these sanctions that are put in for Russia, and how might this potential new U.S. sanctions affect transatlantic relationship, and does it affect any European support for Ukraine?
Well, yes, it's a complicated issue, isn't it? But I think to go back to the basics, since taking office in January, Trump has put no sanctions on, no new sanctions on Russia whatsoever. He's threatened them multiple times. And even in the Liberation Day tariff regime, the whole world got a basic 10% tariff. Russia got 0. He's been incredibly reluctant to punish Russia in any way. And so these sanctions, these two oil companies, Lukoil and Rosneft, the two biggest companies in the country, then it's a shocker that he's actually finally rolled out some sort of sanctions. And they're going to hurt in so much as Russia's very dependent on its oil exports. It produces something like $100 billion, $200 billion a year of export revenue, which is going into the military budget to fuel the war. And already China has reportedly suspended imports. India, which also has already been hit with sanctions, are continuing to buy Russian more oil. They're also reportedly preparing to scale down. And it won't bankrupt Russia, but certainly it'll take money out of the pot. And that will make it more difficult because the Russia economy is now slowing very quickly, and the budget deficit has already tripled from the start of the year's estimates. And so money is suddenly tight. Putin's scrambling around. They're about to raise taxes for the first time in 25 years in order to pay for the war. As for the Europeans, they're welcoming it. And Zelensky has been calling consistently. I mean, he said pointedly, don't just sanction Rosneft and Lukoil, sanction all of the Russian companies, sanction all of the oil. And so the Europeans have been calling to increase the pressure, the idea being to force Putin to the negotiating table in order to stop this war, to call a ceasefire. And he hasn't done that because he hasn't felt any pressure. He's been fighting the war with impunity while others fund it. But whether it'll be a game changer, whether it'll actually cause an end, Putin to start ceasefire talks, I doubt it, because the Russian economy still has plenty in reserve and it still can borrow a lot of money. But certainly it's a step in the right direction.
And Ben, do you notice any fatigue in European allies supporting Ukraine, or U.S. supporting Ukraine, as we see that U.S. is hesitating about supporting Ukraine or giving Ukraine Tomahawk missiles?
Absolutely, there's a lot of fatigue. I mean, on the one hand, as I said, Trump has changed dramatically since the Biden administration. That Trump's basically withdrawn. And even the weapons that he's promised to supply Ukraine with, these are no longer given or gifted. They are supposed to be paid for by the European Union. And in addition to not imposing any sanctions, America has also completely cut off its financial support. And up until Trump took over, America was accounting for 40% of the finances. And this has become, I mean, this move with the sanctions is extremely timely because there's a crisis brewing. That Europe suddenly has to come up with $100 billion a year to fund the war on its own without US help. And it simply does not have the money. I mean, France is in meltdown. The UK is close to meltdown. Germany's budget deficit is ballooning. It's gone into recession. And there's no money in Europe. So they've been talking about seizing these $300 billion of central bank funds that they've confiscated. Well, they're proposing to start confiscating. But then that law had been discussed in Europe again just a few days ago, and it wasn't put through. And without this taxes, without seizing the $300 billion of gross Russian money, Europe can't pay for the war. So Ukraine is actually staring defeat in the face. So this is the time for sanctions. This is the time for America to make a move to try and force Putin to negotiate with them. Because if they don't, the fatigue that's building, lack of money that there is that Ukraine could face a collapse if its funding and weapons are cut off. And it's still very much up in the air. I mean, at the end of the day, it's only sanctioned two countries that extreme. And Putin's going to try and tough it out, and the Ukrainian Zelensky are going to continue to fight as long as they can. But we're heading towards, a cusp of a culmination, and something has to change if Ukraine is going to stay in war.
Yes, thank you very much, Ben Aris, for joining us today as a journalist from Berlin and sharing that insight. Now we move on to our next news. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has promised to secure the return of all deceased hostages held in Gaza. This comes after he has met with the families of 2 American captives during his visit to Israel. Rubio has posted on his X saying that the U.S. will not forget the lives of hostages who has died in Hamas's captivity. He has also promised to work until the remains of Itai Shen, Omar Nutra, and all other remaining hostages are returned. The Israeli group Hostages and Missing Families Forum has welcomed Rubio's remarks, stating that 13 hostages need to come home and their families deserve closure. The group has urged authorities to continue until the last hostage is safely returned. And that's a wrap on the NewsX America 360. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.